Welcome to Booked, the bookstore education podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. In this episode, we'll be listening to KPI 201 Workshop, a session that was presented at Winter Institute 2026 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Whoop, see, I'm not good at this part, but here we go. So hopefully everybody's downloaded the app. So from the app, you can get to the slides and the handouts. There's a survey, and then everything's going to be recorded so you can go back if needed. And then during the course of this afternoon, I have a couple different little Excel thingies that I've made over the years that if anybody wants copies of that, you can just bring your business card and I'll email everybody out after the fact because I like little P&Ls. It's kind of fun.
This is when I usually interrupt Melissa. We've spoken together many times before. So yes. out of just sheer habit, this is when I interrupt you to tell you that the survey part, get in that habit today. ABA relies heavily in their education department, designing future educations based on the results from those surveys. I am known as the most highly competitive panelist at ABA. I maintain the highest return rate on surveys. I don't maintain the highest scores. I don't really care. I'm kind of a C student, but I get all my grades in. So I am encouraging you to help feed my psychopathology and fill out the survey about this session so that I can maintain on Melissa's behalf all of the good comments that will be said about her.
This is so not true.
Okay. Also, it'll get you in the habit. If you do them today, you'll keep doing it throughout the conference, and the ABA education staff will be able to develop a better conference for you in the future. You'll get more of what you want. Okay. Now I'm done interrupting, at least this time.
Okay. And then we're going to try to do questions kind of at the end, but if something's really, really nagging at you we're okay. We're just trying to stay on time, but we definitely want interactive, lots of questions and all that today. I think that'll make it even more fun.
All right. It is our practice and habit to always review the antitrust guidelines at every session that we do. This might be your first session of the conference, so let me go ahead and do that. We obviously are here to share ideas and support, and some of the most valuable things you're going to learn are going to be at the tables, in the hallways, in the elevators, and at the bar. However, we cannot, because of the Sherman antitrust guidelines, discuss amongst ourselves price or pricing policies, boycotts or arranging boycotts, and dividing up the market for the purposes of controlling price or consumer behavior. If you need more information about that, or you're like, what the heck is the Sherman Antitrust Guide? That is all available to you on BookWeb, or speak to an ABA employee.
All right. So session objectives, you can read the slide, but basically we're going to do a little bit of an overview of kind of some different categories of KPIs, because it's kind of, we don't know in the room how many people are doing a ton of data geeking out already. And then give you all time to work on kind of refining some of the ones you really want to work on. We're going to talk about pairing different KPIs and how we look at that. And then talk about how we kind of get this out at the staff level and get some empowerment at our stores.
No, I'm good. I'll jump in. We don't need the agenda. Just keep moving because we'll come back to it. Yeah. This is where we introduce ourselves. Hi, I'm Cynthia, and I'm a nerd, and I really love data. I own 2 bookstores in central Indiana. 4Kids Books and Toys is a children's only store that was founded 24 years ago. MacArthur Books is a general bookstore that will be celebrating its 4th birthday in April. And just because she's here and I can embarrass her, 4Kids Books and Toys was named because my husband and I have 4 kids. Kid number 2 is in the back of the room back there. Hi, Sarah, who lives and works in Philadelphia. So she was kind enough to come over and join her mom and share a hotel room for a day so that we could catch up and visit. But they really are owner operated stores, and they really are named after my 4 kids.
All right. And I'm Melissa DeMott. I own the Well-Read Moose bookstore in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. And I think this is our 3rd or 4th time goofing around with data stuff. So hopefully you all will have a good time today and learn something and be able to take stuff back to your stores that's very useful.
All right, let's start with some common definitions and what KPIs are measuring. KPIs, as you know, are key performance indicators. They are categories of items that we measure within our stores and our businesses. They are only good as data points over time. KPIs basically measure trends. Data points are interesting, but what's more interesting and what's controllable is what data does over time. Give me some examples of KPIs you're measuring right now. What data things are you measuring in your store over time? Just shout it out. Hannah, go ahead. Sales per square footage. And I should be running around the room with a microphone right now, but I'm going to echo you and just get it into the tape. Sales per square foot.
Perfect. Anybody else tracking that? Excellent.
Sales by day or week. Exactly. And that can be two different ways. That can be literally sales by Tuesdays. That can be sales by Tuesdays in February. That can be sales by Tuesdays when it's a vacation and not a vacation, like whatever. Tuesdays and whatever. What else? I'm sorry?
Excellent.
Break even point. Oh my goodness, move to the top of the class. Break even point. Do you know what date in the year it happens for your store? Uh-huh. Okay.
December 26th.
Yes or no is an acceptable answer to that. Other KPIs that people are measuring. Yeah, go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so sales by department or genre. Okay. Yeah. Oh, bless you. Frontlist versus backlist sales. Okay. New versus used. Okay. Book versus non-book.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. Book versus non-book in our store.
Right. Categories of non-book. Drill down even further. Seasonal cards by season.
Ooh.
I know we're going to get there.
We need to get there. I like that one.
Okay. There are 5 basic categories of KPIs, five buckets that we put them in. And I'm going to do a category for each. I'm going to do a sheet for each of these, but right now I'm just going to do an overview of them. And when we break up into groups, it's going to help you to put whatever things you can in each of those buckets. But there's 5 basic categories. Cue Cynthia's lecture. Are you ready? Okay. The first is inventory. Inventory KPIs are things like turn, gross margin, sell-through rate. You don't have to write all these down. I will do it. Shrinkage and spoilage. Those are different things. Shrinkage is the difference in your inventory from one inventory point when you counted it to another. So it may include things like loss or shoplifting. It may also include damage, like shelf damage. Spoilage is exactly what it sounds like. Stuff that actually goes out of date. Think of candles that can no longer be sold, in non-book putty or slime that goes past its sell-through date. Sometimes with some books, I call spoilage yellowing that can no longer be sold if you're in a new category. All of those are inventory-related KPIs. Then the next category are sales-related KPIs. So this is not the stuff. This is how it moves. So those are things that you mentioned, like sales per square foot. Your conversion rate, your gross profit, and your net profit. Hi, welcome. The average number of items per transaction, the cost or the volume per transaction, online versus in-person sales, and then year-over-year growth in sales. All of those are sales-related KPIs. I'm going to take a pause there because that was a lot. Are there any other sales-related KPIs that people are measuring? Exactly. Yeah. Average transaction amount. Yes. And even average transaction amount per day is really interesting. In my kids' store, my Saturday transactions are higher because they're on the way to the birthday party. right?
Yeah.
During the week, it's a single pickup or it's an after school, but my average so it doesn't do me any good to look at average transactions over the course of the week. I need to force the growth into the areas where it's higher. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Any other sales ones? I just lost my other note sheet. That's okay. I can talk about it. Consumer behavior is the third category of KPIs. So some people measure average transaction also in consumer behavior, but this is return customers. If you track your customers by name or by credit card or by whatever other category, percentage of return customers, percentage of new customers, physical returns behavior, meaning the items they return. We all have high returning customers, right? Or maybe you don't. I do. I can see them coming in the parking lot with their little bag trucking towards my door, and my staff immediately becomes like invisible or incredibly busy shelving.
Same.
Yes, one or the other. Customer behavior is also time of day that they shop and seasonality. E-commerce KPIs, there's a zillion of them. But some of them are duplicatable. Empty cart rates, abandoned cart rates is one. Cost per acquisition of that customer. What did it take you to get them to your website? Was that a marketing cost? Was that an outreach? Was that an in-store conversion through documents you're producing? What did it cost you to get them? Was it your, bookshop membership, whatever it is, whatever your cost is of your website. But e-commerce KPIs vary based on the sophistication of your website and what platform that you're going to use. But it's another bucket, right, of KPIs. And then the final one is employee performance, is our staff. What KPIs are driven by the behavior of the people in our store? So sales per employee, sales per shift, sales per hour, retention rates, employee turnover, your internal promotion rates. How many of your managers, buyers, or folks in the management level of your stores started out as frontline booksellers? How many of your leadership are you growing your own year over year? And how does that compare? I also look at, quite honestly, and while they're not really employees yet, I look at the number of responses per opening. How many did we get versus of how we advertise for a new bookseller? How many did we get in which ways? How many applications did we get? How many did we interview? How many accepted? Those kinds of things. And that sounds like I have a staff of thousands. I don't. One of my stores has 12 employees and the other store has 5. Like, I'm tiny. But every time you replace somebody, it's a huge investment in time and labor and money. So those kinds of issues are important to me. All right. So that's the 5: inventory, sales, customer behavior, e-commerce, and employee performance. I'm just going to stop there because that was me talking a lot. Does anyone have questions about any of that? Does that all make sense?
You finding it helpful to kind of group them, to think about what part of your store you want to work on? That was kind of, I think, what was driving this piece of the session was we can't do it all. We all have so much going on, and we try to I start a lot of things and don't finish, which is not great. And the idea is if you can walk away with 1 or 2 things that you feel confident that you can work on in the categories you think your store needs the most work.
Is there, based on that list, is there one KPI per category that you're working on in the store currently? I'm going to invite you to just quickly take the marker in the center of your table and scribble on that piece of paper in front of you. One KPI that you're working on can come from any category. They're scented markers, by the way, so please feel free to shout out.
Yeah, please feel free. We thought that was an extra special component.
Yeah. I am working on time.
So when are we going to write these?
When they start working.
Okay. Okay.
Feel free to write more than one. I'll remind you of the 5 categories if you want to do one for each. Inventory, sales, customer behavior, e-commerce, and employees. This feels very old school. For those of you who are listening to this on a recording, I will just narrate that people are writing on giant pieces of paper in the middle of the table with scented Sharpies. Feel free to do the same at home.
To do it together.
Pretty soon.
All right.
We'll give you 2 more minutes. We're still solidly in our time frame.
Okay, good.
So we're
Good.
We've got 10 more minutes.
Okay. Great.
Yeah, it's good. I think I'm going to run through these categories and ask them to shout out. And somebody's going to-
Yeah.
Just to kind of- I really want to be prepared and can't hear them.
Okay. Got it. Okay.
I'm going to interrupt you for a minute because I'm going to go through the categories one more time and I'm going to ask people in the room, if you've got one in that category written down, to shout it out, please. Does that make sense? The reason is somebody else is going to have a marker in their hand and you may want to add one to your group or to your piece of paper that, oh yeah, we work on that too. All right. Who wrote down something in inventory KPIs? What key performance indicator in managing inventory? Turns. Gross margin. Sales by category, which could go in sales, but also goes into inventory stocking. So I see where you're headed there, Hannah. All right, let's move into sales. Sales by time. Are you thinking of by hour or by? Mm-hmm.
Great.
Okay, so KPI by hours, particularly when you have a blended business, and in this example, it's a bar, bookstore. That's heaven. And and you're looking about how to expand staff for the busiest times. How long have you been open? Congratulations. That's wonderful. So now you have data points that you can start to create trends. That is the hardest part. Yes. Now you're smart. Okay. What about customer behavior? Did anybody write down a KPI that relates to customer behavior? Yes. Foot traffic per day, per hour. Okay. Do you are you tracking your foot traffic by sales or by entered to the store? Do you have a clicker? They have a spreadsheet. So you're physically writing it down. Okay. This is, managing your conversion rate or your traffic rate is a really interesting topic. At one of my stores, I use a door overhead counter. It measures the number of times a day our door opens and closes. I divide it by 2 because they had to come in, they had to come out, hopefully. We have found people in our stock room. It's children. It's fine. What's an extra kid or 2, right? So that is an important number for me. A door counter is very affordable and can be installed. Other people will simply look at the number of transactions, or they'll do a physical count of browsers per day. Anybody got anything else that they use for customer traffic? There's a toy store in the Minneapolis area that uses their overhead cameras to dip in. One of their cameras is pointed towards their entrance to dip in for sample shots. And they'll go in and just count over a set hour of a day how many people came in. And they use that as just a data point for what it was likely to be. Any other customer behavior KPIs that people are tracking? Return rate. There's just nothing else to say about that other than to make a face. Yes. How do you track that? Locals versus tourists plus visitors. Oh. I see. So you're creating a visitor count in your POS and using non-recognized folks or they tell you. That's cool. Are you in a tourist community? In Vermont, of course. We all want to go to Vermont and buy at a bookstore. Yes. Yes. Thank you.
I really like that one. I'm writing that one down. That's great. And so when you ask for visitor, is it you've confirmed that's their first time in, or do you put anybody that's not in your membership program in there, or?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. I love that because it's an opening to so much more conversation. Yeah. Do you have an account or are you just visiting? Oh my gosh, where are you from? And your local bookstore must be. And there's so much bonding that happens there. Our children's store, through some complete act of lunacy early on when I started, established a grandparent discount. So our grandparents get 10% off in the kids' store. I copied it from Learning Express, quite honestly, because that was something that they did in their stores. And my mother thought it was the best thing ever that she could buy things at the toy store for her grandkids and get a discount. So we ask everybody if you're eligible for a grandparent discount. Literally, we ask every age because I don't know who your second husband is. I mean, whatever. And we also, of course, offer an educator's discount. They're usually smart enough to say, do you have an educator's discount? But the grandparent discount, I say now it's complete lunacy because I've been giving those people 10% off for 24 years and they would shop for me anyway because I gift wrap for free. So I don't know what I was doing, but the data point on it is fabulous because I know exactly how many grandparents buy, what they buy. Now, the pitch we give to them to sign up is that, would you like to enroll for a grandparent discount? We take your name and information, but we'll track all of your purchases so that when you come in and it's John's birthday and you say, what series was it that he was buying? Oh, I can track it by their parents' name or by what you bought. What did I buy the 2-year-old last year? I can pull all that up. You can see your purchase history. So from a customer service perspective, it's offering more value, hopefully, than they think they're having to sell to us. But it's fascinating to me because it helps me Christmas buy. I know what's going to turn for grandparent sales. Grandparents also in our region lead the season in buying. They buy their Christmas gifts early. They buy their Easter stuff early. They buy their Valentine's packages early for kids. They buy stuff earlier than parents do. So tracking that and knowing when there should be a Valentine's display up or a kindergarten graduation display up based on what the grandparents are buying is much more valuable to me than just sort of watching the normal traffic sales of, oh my God, it's Valentine's Day and my kids get off the bus in an hour. Do you have anything I can, those kinds of questions.
Because they're also shipping a lot. And we've done the same thing. They've asked and asked for earlier and earlier in our store as well.
Any other customer behavior KPIs that people think are valuable? Yes. Top 50 customers, yes.
I love that.
Okay. Absolutely. Does anybody track their top 100 customers and time since last purchase? Yes.
Fantastic.
Of course Hannah does because she's a nerd like me. Yeah. That's a really interesting thing. Just walk very carefully. If you reach out to customers in marketing, particularly if you have a grandparent category, you might want to check the obituaries. Yeah, before you send out, at any rate. But drop-offs of your newsletter list, those kinds of things are also just really good customer behavior indicators, I think. Others that are customer behavior? Okay. E-commerce KPIs that anybody wrote down?
People shipping outside of our immediate region.
Yes.
Frequency of those orders.
Right.
Returning customers in those areas and possible relationship building. And sending them a coupon early during the holidays to get them to shop in October. Buying from me for some reason in California.
Right, because they want to support your store. Those are loyal customers who are making an effort to be part of your store community. So let's encourage them. Let's keep them. Let's do the thing. Okay. Employee performance KPIs. I don't really like the word performance there. Staff related, people related KPIs. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's a fascinating piece because it's the beginning of our talking about linkages here, turnover and ability to and close rate. Obviously linked. Newer employees may not be as good at sort of that pivot sale that's necessary. You don't track it, but you should. What? Special orders by shift.
That's really good.
I'm going to repeat that into the microphone so that it makes it onto the tape. An employee that's really good at conversion to a special order. And in this particular case, it's a Saturday employee, which is even more valuable if your traffic is higher on Saturdays like ours. Yes, go ahead.
I did an experiment when I first took over my store one previous owner. And so we tracked when you said, would you like us to get that book in for you?
Mm-hmm.
Do it 2 to 4 days versus we ordered that book for you. Because women don't want to be in any problem.
Yes.
We said order. You're like, no, that's okay. I'll do it next time I come in.
Mm-hmm.
Men have no problem. Women like, no. And I go, do this every day. So we learned to change our terminology.
We've had the same issue in our store. People feel they don't want to be an imposition and calling it special or seeming like it's effort. We want to make it sound like it's zero effort.
At the risk of being regionally disparaging, I will tell you that in the Midwest, it's not just women. Midwesterners just don't like to be any trouble. So it's equal for men. And I always try to work into every panel discussion that I ever have. I'll probably work it into the publisher panel tomorrow for what that's worth. The phrase, would you like me to grab that at the warehouse?
Yes. We call it the warehouse as well.
Is what we say. We don't order anything. We request it from the warehouse. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes, go ahead.
My latest graph also from the Midwest is saying, we're a small store, we can only stock so many books at a time, but we change them over every month. And if you leave me your name and number, that'll boost that title to the top of the reorder calendar.
Oh, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
That's so sweet. It's like they're participating in a customer survey. Yes, that's wonderful. So using their request to drive your buying or having them help you drive your buying. I'm interested in the KPI there. I'm interested in both what happens to sales on those items and what happens to sales with those customers that leave the name and number. Like what's the conversion rate on that? That's the KPI that I really want to drill down into over time to see what a difference it makes in behavior. But it's charming too. I love the friend making of that. Any other employee performance KPIs that people wrote down in particular? Absolutely. Personnel expenses as a result of sales, which is another way of saying sales per hour or sales per payroll. Yes. Absolutely can consider that. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in terms of linking to KPIs and adjusting literally store operations based on that. But that's a really important one. Yes, go ahead. Yes, I would put that in the e-commerce category, but I would also put it in customer behavior. So if I was looking at response to a particular channel of outreach, I'd put that in customer behavior. How does my newsletter drive sales? How does my newsletter drive event traffic? How does my newsletter or an Instagram or other social media campaign drive a particular KPI? And I would call that behavior. Yes. All right. We've been on that slide a long time, but are there any other KPIs that you're measuring that don't fit in one of these categories or that you want to get up on the board? Hannah?
Very much so rotate what's on the front page of our website.
Yes.
So I guess that's e-commerce.
It is e-commerce.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And then the other we do, which again, the staff or the inventory, is we measure staff pick sales.
Staff pick sales.
Oh,
okay.
I like that.
Based on who picked it?
So yeah, it's coded in our inventory system. Everything that's staff pick is coded, and then it also has notes who staff pick it is, obviously. But so we do a little contest every holiday season.
You have fan clubs.
Yeah, but it's fun to also see, also some people are part-time, there's a level of staff pick. So
Sure.
It kind of started out as a fun, who sold the most, whatever.
Yeah.
But then trying to find the title too.
Right.
I have it put in my inventory, so I stock those.
Exactly.
I give high priority to them. But then it became, it was actually a way to think about, literally when it comes time for raises and stuff, your staff picks are literally providing that section. The mystery section is driven by your staff picks,
And to get, that's phenomenal. And to get buy-in on doing staff picks and doing shelf talkers and doing other in-store promotions, just the straight up KPI of recommends per employee is really good.
The number that they're doing.
Yes.
Also judging, because I have someone who's wonderful at doing them, but also never misses anything else on the daily checklist versus someone who only wrote staff picks and did not do the rest of their job, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's another measure.
Exactly. I love that. Thank you. I'm stealing it. I'm borrowing it. I'm using it, whatever the word is. Yes, go ahead, please. Mm-hmm. For me, events are standalone and they have their own set of KPIs. And we're going to talk about events and can we measure whether or not they're a bankable event? Melissa has a slide about that. I don't fold them in. I separate them out. And because for a wide variety of reasons. Right now, at my kids' store this week, I have author events in 5 schools with one author and 3 schools with another author. All of those sales are being logged in by whatever employee is processing those on the day. Those have nothing to do with anything that's happening on the floor. Those are event sales to me.
Yeah, we keep those coded as a customer type. So we can put for the schools or a book fair so we have a subcategory of customer so that I can pull those sales out and have them not count in the aggregate toward other metrics.
Mm-hmm.
I was curious about how you factor kind of the global, idea of how employees who are working the day-to-day picking up the phone may not directly.
Mm-hmm. That's a tough one. Does anybody have a technique for tracking that? Yes. Does anyone pay by commission or have a commission-based structure? So the question for the purposes of the taping is to look at commission-based sales and individual employee sales without that additional incentive of a commission or a piece. I will comment that we do something at our stores that probably a lot of stores do, which is to have a monthly goal, and then amounts over that monthly goal in sales go into the employee bonus amount. We typically really only pay attention to it fourth quarter. If we're significantly over sales goal, we will have a discretionary bonus that happens throughout the year, but it's mostly that fourth quarter number that people really pay attention to, and hitting a goal and then a share of that additional profit, because that's very hands-on sales at that point.
We've done something similar with fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm.
On the how to have that reward without sales that way. There's a lot of very messy labor law things that hit that very quickly, so be very careful. But one thing we have found is rewards for staff because that often involves reading outside of your work time, right? And
Right.
we've been really struggling with how to fairly compensate. You get an ARC, sweet, it's mutually beneficial, but it can get messy really quickly when you start narrowing it down. So we have a certain goal is hit, and then there's a gift card reward and certain things that come along, because we can't actually directly compensate on payroll for easy labor law reasons. So it's an interesting thing to think about those kinds of things. And then another story I worked out before I opened mine, we had mutual goals with other small businesses on the street. So if they had commission-based clothing store or something like that, and if they hit their goals, they got a book from my store or things like that. So kind of also tying into the community to think of outside the box rewards that aren't directly tied to payroll.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I'm sorry, book credit?
Yeah, book credit.
Okay, so book credit. We do pay people for outside work at our stores, and some of that involves reading if we need marketing materials created out of that. Obviously, we pay for newsletter writing and those pieces. That's not done in store. That's done outside. I'll go ahead and put in my plug, as I always do, for a scheduling system that allows you to put blocks in that people can do remotely. There's quite a bit of work that happens for our bookstores that does not need to be in our bookstores. And one of the ways to reduce turnover and create better KPIs with your employee performance is to create more flexibility around how and when they can do that work. I'm using When I Work. There are many vehicles available, but it allows me to put a task up in the unclaimed shift in the top. I'll name the shift to what it is and a recommended amount of time, a guess as to what I think it's going to take. And then they can log in, they can claim that shift, log in and log out on our point of sale system and do that task. If it takes more, obviously it takes more. If it takes less, it takes less, but it just frees me up. It also allows me, and Melissa's going to talk a lot about this, I know, it also frees me up from looking at how many staff do I need to have in the store at any given time to actually manage the workflow and to be there when it's busy and not necessarily be there when it's not busy. My folks would rather have time and flexibility than just paid hours standing around.
That's great. All right.
You want to do it?
Okay, so we all like to collect data. We're interested in the information. And I think the hardest part is figuring out the time to put it to use, because there's tons of information. But what have you done with the data you've collected? Does anybody have
Anyone have an
quick
example?
and dirty story of where they did a KPI and found value?
Yes, go ahead.
We rearrange our store a lot in sort of small space, so we track like what genres sell during what quarters, and every time we rearrange, we compare. Last quarter we rearranged, and now this section of the store is selling more what genre should we put in that section.
Perfect.
So we do the same. We move things around a lot. We shrink and expand. I call our shelves an accordion. So sometimes you widen the space for that section and sometimes you shrink it. Super important to pay attention. Genre sales are hot right now, and boy, our fiction, just plain fiction, has shrunk so much in the last 4 or 5 years. But that doesn't mean we're not still growing our sales, because we've gone to those genre sales that work. So I think visually too in the store, noticing where you're getting too many spined. I mean, I use the data, but I also do a lot of walking around and getting the staff to pay more attention. And that's, Cynthia's big on trying to empower the staff, and I don't do it as well as I should, but that's an easy one for them when it's kind of slow. You know, if you're snaking a section over and over, or you're really struggling to find space, that should bring up other conversations about, you know, how we're organizing our store.
The most obvious one is when people are scheduled. So if you are tracking when your sales are happening, is that when you have the right number of people in the store? We get very enamored with the time of day that we do receiving. And I find this particularly in our kids' store, because books come in and we know they're coming and it's exciting, but there is nothing like a new box from Fat Brain or Douglas Toys or somebody, and everybody suddenly wants to be in receiving and everybody wants to open it. And oh my goodness, it's almost ticking. It's going to explode if we don't receive it right this minute, because it's so cute and it's really, really fun. Learning to discipline that receiving to use the time more effectively is an ongoing and hard lesson, and something that we look at almost constantly. I'll give you a very basic example, which is that toys that come in on Friday don't necessarily need to be shelved on Friday. We're open on Sundays. We open between 11 and 12, depending on the season of the year. We're open between 5 and 6 in the afternoon, depending on the season of the year. We are crazy busy for that first hour and a half we're opening in the kids' store, because it's post-brunch business, right? People are finishing brunch, they're coming in, or it's pre-birthday party business. They're on their way to the party, so they're picking something up as they go. It then becomes so dead in the middle of Sunday afternoons that you could host a yodeling competition and not offend anyone. It is absolutely just a desert scape. And then right around 4 o'clock, we get super cute again. And from 4 until 6, it's SRO, and you almost have to kick people out at, 5 minutes to 6. But every week, that block from 1 to 4 is a complete dead zone. I need probably 3 people there to manage the 11 to 1 and the 4 to 6. But those middle hours are a dearth. That's prime receiving time. So I need 1 less person on Friday, and I need to keep those 3 people busy on Sunday afternoons. And for working Sundays, which is not a particularly attractive time for my staff to work, they get the fun of opening the cute Douglas bunnies. There's an ebb and a flow to their day. But I literally look at where do we have the most sales? Where do we need the most people? Where do we need it? And just because you're there all day doesn't mean you should do that task. You should be on the floor, not necessarily doing the receiving thing, with some codicils, because I recognize some people have just receiving staff. Some people have just buying staff. Some people have just front list staff. But again, bodies on the floor. Does anyone have a similar example? I know Melissa does.
Yeah, I know for us, receiving is super critical, but I schedule it when we think UPS is going to come. And last year we had a situation where our UPS guy was laid off, and the new person changed their time, and it wasn't coming at 1:30 or 2, it was coming at 3:30 or 4, and no one was telling me, and that was interesting. So a couple of days I walked out, I'm like, oh, there's no boxes, and my brain is like, so that's labor that's standing around. I mean, yeah, they can do some shelf talkers and things, but it's not great time and energy. So I had them track for 2 weeks the time that the UPS was coming, and then I adjusted the shifts back, and they had to work later, and that wasn't always ideal, but that's what we needed. And then when Tad got unlaid off and he fixed our route back, we switched it back. So we were lucky we liked our other flow, but you have to pay attention to those buckets of time where there's just standing around, and can it be receiving or can it be another task? But if it's ongoing, that's a labor, that's a money suck.
Are there particular shifts that are known as busy shifts? Are there particular shifts that are known as light shifts? Look very carefully at moving non-sales tasks to light shifts or other developmental work. The point is not to get more out of people. The point is that so that during the busy times, you have enough staff to do the things that need to be done, so that people aren't being stressed or customers aren't waiting. Are you operationalizing those in a good way?
Anybody else?
What else
they've
are you
done
doing
with
the
data?
What are you doing with it? Do you share it?
Share
With
it with
staff.
staff. Yep.
How?
We have spreadsheets and like for instance, we've only been open in our physical location for a little over a year. We're
Okay.
a coffee shop, and like we're like, man, Thursday mornings are so damn slow. Where is everybody? Like, why? We're small. Why are they going for coffee? So, and that was just like we were all paying attention to that, and so we decided to do like a writer's co-working that we host in the morning, and now Thursday morning, great, and they're one of our busiest times. It's fantastic. So things like that. But yeah, we just communicate a lot. We're a small staff.
And they read spreadsheets, your staff.
They do.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, how detailed, I don't know, but the information is there.
Okay.
Make sure when we have staff meetings that we're referencing the same docs so they know that it's
Interesting.
Excellent.
Interesting. Other ways people are sharing data? Yes, go ahead. Oh, I love that.
Wow. Okay, so scheduling software. What do you use? Homebase?
Homebase.
I do too, and I didn't know how to do that. I love teaching a class because I learned so much. So you make it an event as, okay. So that's really great. I think of visuals, and you can color code them in Homebase, and you have to find ways for the folks that don't want to stare at spreadsheets all day to become engaged with it. And that's kind of my struggle. I've got like 2 people out of 12 that really care to look at pieces of paper. And so it's finding those visual aids, those ways of making it kind of pop either in the back room or in the break room to try to get people to care about some of these metrics. That's great.
I love that. I think it's important to share small KPIs with staff because I think that's where people's ideas come from and that's where we make the most improvements. We have a tendency as store owners or as managers to look at really big picture things. We're looking at all of these different variables. But if you drill it down to one thing and say, we are going to talk about shrinkage this month. We're going to talk about, pick another item and really get people to focus in on what that number looks like and what they might suggest to address it. You're going to get the best of people's creativity and you're going to get the most buy-in. I talk about frequently, this is another kid store example, but I do it at MacArthur as well. Our part-time employees all have responsibility for buying. They don't do all the buying, but they're all given a small subcategory to do buying for. I'm talking like high school level employees who do buying for a particular category in my kids store and college employees who do buying at MacArthur for a particular category. They know the turn, they know the shrinkage, they know the spoilage, they know the average sale of those departments like nobody's business because it's their department. I give them an amount that they're allowed to purchase with. I connect them with a rep if that's useful. If they're buying it another way online, I connect them with that. If they want me to sit with them, I will. But typically they take right off. And we push that straight out. It's a way to push ownership of those KPIs into an area and get much better suggestions from people. So find something that you don't personally particularly care about or are not good. The bookstore example that almost always comes up is manga, right? If you don't know a lot about manga or another subcategory, you hire somebody who reads that or who is really good at it, put them in charge of the KPIs for that category and let them fly. Anyone have an example of that? Anybody's looking at me saying, absolutely not. Yeah, go ahead. Books and translations, another good one.
There's like a section of, I think it's like Chinese romance and translation.
Okay.
That is flying out of my store like it never existed.
Super cool.
So she's also responsible for like every hand sell on
Okay.
and so just but like giving her the ownership of this one like random weird little thing that had sold 3 books a year and she's really by like triple digits.
That's wonderful. And it's empowering.
Booksellers all scurry to put on their notes Chinese romance. Check that out. Which is what I just did. Okay. Yeah, keep going. Okay. I started our conversation today by saying that key performance indicators are interesting data points, but they are only interesting over time. We are measuring trends here, not occurrences. A perfect example would be Winter Institute attendance this year. Who would have known that the snow gods would unleash on the East Coast and when people are going to arrive? Single events do not drive long-term success, but rather trends over time that we can make small adjustments and see if we are creating improvement or decline. KPIs need to be managed over time. I think most of ours are managed annually, but there are some that can be managed in shorter periods. But I think most of ours are annually. So when do you do that? For me, it's that dead week between Christmas and New Year's when my brain is so fried with the holidays that I really don't want to talk to live people. So I take refuge in looking at numbers. But for other folks, it's their anniversary date of when their store opened. For others, it's their school year, New Year. You know, for many of us, September 1st is still New Year's Day. Whatever it is, I find that annually or quarterly for some, because I can compare a summer to a summer reading program to a summer reading program, you know, a fourth quarter to a fourth quarter. But I find that annually becomes my most effective measurement time frame. What about you? Go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the broader categories like sales, year ago month, year to date, quarterly, annual, those are all easy kind of snapshot that are giving some of those trends and things. But are we going to act on that necessarily? I think it's important to know as your big picture looking at how the store is doing, comparing back.
Yeah.
I think it's the challenge is when you're going to take information and then turn it into more of a bigger action that's going to take more time.
Yeah. And we're starting to look at our turns within genre, shrinking shelves, and all the things you've mentioned before. So I have fun looking at it. My staff has access to all of this all the time as well if they click on the buttons. And I think what I need to do is a better job of reminding them, let's look at this all together because it's motivating to them.
One of the ways you can encourage that, if you're interested in having more staff engagement with numbers or with data, is to simply leave them on the to-do list to text you a piece of data that you need. Ask the Monday staff at the end of the day, what was our sales per hour last week or last month as compared to the year before. Give them the license and the incentive and the opportunity to dig around and come up with a data point for you. Just ask.
Okay.
The only other thing I'm going to say about acting too quickly is to confess that 24 years ago when I opened my first store, I read in one of those How to Be a Retailer books, you know, those like dummy guide things, that one of the things you should do at the end of the day is record the weather of every single day for your store. I have 24 years of little notes about the weather of every single day. We've been open and closed during that period of time. You could write a Rain Man movie script based on my customer records. I have never done a single thing with it, and I'm not even really sure what to do with it, but it's there. Yes, go ahead. A line a day, 5-year journal.
There you go.
Yeah, yes.
It's been very helpful to just write the little things that come up in the day that might have impacted your sales. And I write down number of transactions per day or sales, average sale. And then also like oh my gosh, something was going on at the downtown event center. We had tons of people in the store today. And I read it like a week ahead and a week behind to keep parameters on like what's coming.
Okay.
And so it's been very, very helpful if I remember to write in it.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's a fun way to do it.
It's also kind of a therapeutic process, right? Because it allows you to say, okay, well, today was awful, but here's why, which lets you restabilize and start again tomorrow. Or today was incredible, and here's why, so that you can like put it in some kind of context. We could put our weather in there. Again, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I think our microphones are too close. I don't know what I'm going to do with that data ever, but you could ask me if you want to call me at the store and find out what it was doing on June 7th of 2000. I got you. Jenny, did you have a point? Do you want a mic? There we go. Thanks.
Well, I've been using a KPI of sorts. We moved from Massachusetts to Ohio. And
Wow.
So we had to close the store in Massachusetts and then reopen in a new location and a smaller location.
Mm-hmm.
So when we opened in October of this past year, I used the data that I had in Massachusetts for Christmas time to see how my quarter was in the new location. It's a much smaller store. But even that, I was surprised. I was almost to the same amount that I made in Massachusetts after being there for 3 years. So that helped me justify where I am now.
Right.
Even though it's more expensive, obviously people responded and they're excited to be there. So
It's a great endorsement of your business plan. I would also posit that you're probably a better buyer and a better retailer. I mean, with each successive year in practice. Yeah. And we could all learn a lot more from you. Yes. Yes.
So we're having to relearn the new leadership versus going by what I used to buy for in Massachusetts.
It's interesting. My two stores are only 2 miles apart, and I would say that much similar things, even in those two suburban communities of the same large metropolitan Midwestern city. Those of you who have stores in major metro areas, I know the difference between stores that are only 6 blocks away is enormous. That's an incredibly interesting set of data. Jenny, did you have a point?
Yeah, we record our weather on our daily sheets for closing. We record our weather, our events, what might be selling really well, like if people are asking for certain hot titles. But when we go back and look at a year comparison, we go back and see what the weather is, because like what's happening right now in the Northeast, if that happened in Oregon and or maybe they close a freeway from Portland to Hood River, we can go back and see that dip in sales and be like, oh, that's why that didn't work out that week, or that month was lower. So that's what we started doing with the weather.
One of the, and I'll grab you in just a second, we just came out of an ABA board meeting, and one of the large sort of national trends that we're looking at is the impact of climate change on book selling in a wide variety of areas. So at some point, all of this data that we're all gathering about weather and sales will go into a much larger algorithm that we can use. But in the meantime, my homework is done, right? 24 years of scribbles about sunshine. Go ahead.
I was just say we also track the weather, not quite that.
I know it's a little obsessive, but
like
once
if
you start,
but if it's like if we were closed for a snow day or something, we'll track
Right.
it. But the other thing that we do is like town events. So for example, our town has an Oktoberfest event that sometimes it's in September and sometimes it's in October, and it is a very large event, and it totally skews my sales data if I don't recognize that. Oh wait, last year it was the last weekend of September. This year is the first weekend of October. It's going to change my overall sales for those months. So having those like larger events that impact sales noted in my like year over year comparison is really helpful.
Mm-hmm. It is a good way to look, and it helps you buy better. If you know that event is coming, you can go back and look at those trends.
And not feel terrible about myself when my September is down 24% because the event is actually next week.
Exactly.
Right.
What's a KPI that you've tracked and not done anything with other than my weather example?
Anybody?
Hannah?
You're fine. No.
I haven't figured out what to do, and this is a little similar to like the bulk buy sale question and events, which I know we're going to get to. But we have several large pre-order campaigns that we've done with same authors. Like we're lucky enough to be Clint Smith's local bookstore, and that's when he releases a book that changes my year, and the year Clint Smith doesn't release a book that changes my year. So I know to like gird up for it, but I don't really actually know what to do with that data. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah,
I'm setting, or if we had a bulk sale, like I'm setting that inventory, I'm setting it aside so I know not to necessarily expect it, and I know to chase more of those, right? But like, I don't actually really know how to use it. Yeah, or a huge a thing that's not a pre-order that I'm personally doing, but it's the big book of the year or whatever.
Right. And part of that is the ebb and flow of book selling, right? We live and die by the marketing and trends and what becomes super hot. I'm looking at you, ice hockey kinds of things that happen in our industry. And those are important. I think those are different than, because that's the normal day-to-day of book selling, is riding those big trends and titles, versus what you're talking about, which is, how do I handle the employee performance KPI of a bulk sale? And how do I attribute that to employee? If I've got a single employee whose whole job is bulk sales, it becomes really easy to say, what are we doing and where are we reaching out? Averaging it into our overall performance. You could average it into your overall staff performance, or you could just pull it out as event-based sales. I think that's up to you. Where's the data helpful to you, and how can you use it to move the needle? I'm not going to judge employees based on just their sales per hour. They add a lot of different kinds of value, but it's another data point that helps me figure out where to use people the most effectively. Anybody here, another KPI point that was brought up today that they know they get, but they haven't acted on? I'm sorry, I'm making everybody chase. Yes.
Yeah, sure. Sales sell-through. I'm just not sure how to apply that and make best use of that data. I'm getting it out of my POS, but I'm just not sure how to apply it.
So as it relates to turn, or as it relates to returns? To turn. Okay. We track turn in our store by overall store, by genre, by section, by unit, meaning shelving unit, by shelf. Every single shelf in our store has a letter and a number code, and I can pull the sales in inventory. Now, things move a little bit, but I typically am doing 2 to 3 shelves at a time. I'm not doing a single shelf. I can track the difference of turn if I flip a section from alphabetical to backwards, or if I move board books up 2 shelves, or if I move seasonal from picture books to a tabletop. So it's about moving for me. When something starts to lag below its average, it needs to move. If it gets quiet, it needs to be moved. Hi, my name's Cynthia. I'm a nerd.
Okay.
Any other ones that you've tracked that you haven't done anything with yet that we can help you find a thing to do with it? No data point should go to waste. All right. Exhaustive list of KPIs. This is for your, this is for more to add to your pad in the middle of the table. The reason we're going to do this, we've warmed everybody up. I want you to brainstorm an exhaustive list of KPIs that you can track from your table or from a table near you. The reason is that we're then going to figure out how we can link 2 unrelated ones together and move the needle. That's the goal of this exercise. So I'm going to give you 5 to 10 minutes. I want as many on that page as you can get. And feel free to move. Like if you want to shuffle around, feel free to move or plug in.
Okay.
Do you have a KPI from each of these 5 categories on your sheet? Or can you make one up? So that you have one. We're talking about linking. Okay. So now we're going to talk about pairing. We have a lot of data points, and are we pairing them to move the needle? So can you take a KPI from 2 different categories and look at them together? Okay, so we're going to take one from inventory and one from employees, or one from, it doesn't matter what you do, one from e-commerce and one from employees. Can you take two different KPIs from 2 different categories, circle them, and then figure out how they link together or how you change something to move the other? I do want to give a couple examples. I'm just going to take a pause here while I go, what did she just say? Yeah. So you're going to look at your KPIs. You're going to say, what category does that belong to? Can you take two that may or may not seem related in your brain, circle them, and see how they pair together? It's hard to move individual KPIs sometimes. Traffic per hour. Give me another one that you don't really control. Weather. Yeah, weather. That's our great one, right? Employee turnover. Can you take two and put them together and figure out a way that they are related? So we talked about staff scheduling and sales per hour. That's an obvious one, right? So we moved our staff scheduling so that our to-do lists and our tasks were changed into times when sales per hour were lower. We consequently reduced our turnover with people who didn't want to work on the weekends. Yeah. We looked at sales per season and changed how we staff our seasonal employees based on how much wrapping those items take. So we gift wrap in our kids' store. It takes time. We need a full-time wrapper at some times of the year. That's all they do is gift wrap. Other times of the year, it just slows down each transaction. We changed how we hired seasonally based on the higher wrapping seasons, which intuitively should make sense, right? But it doesn't, because you don't think about that extra. Like the individual sale isn't generating any more dollars. It's still a $29 sale, but it's wrapped, which takes much more employee time than the two $15 sales added together at a time when it's not wrapped. So can you pick two KPIs on your sheet that are from different categories and circle them and think about how they are related? One of the examples that came up while we were chatting around the room is a store that has a romance section, but also does a high amount of returns. Do you want to share? Or do you want me to just share? Yeah, go for it.
So our store's been around for 32 years. We bought it about 5 years ago. I'm a big romance reader. The store did not have a romance section before I got there. Now it does. But I would like to grow that section. But it's a section that's not very large. So if a book doesn't sell within 3 months, even if I see it selling really well at other stores, we have to return that book because so many more romances are coming in.
Mm-hmm. So the question as we were walking around is, do they have the wrong books or do they have the wrong customers? The answer is neither, but let's do a controlled experiment and find out why. So let's take a look at the customers that have bought romance books from you in the last 3 years since you've opened the store. For all the customer data that you have. Many of us have a lot of customer data. Some of us have none, but everybody's got some. So let's take that data from the people that have bought over the last 3 years. Let's do a targeted campaign to those customers over, I would probably do 3 months because I like things in quarters, but you do whatever makes sense to you. I would do a targeted campaign over 3 months to those customers. Maybe that's a special newsletter to them. Maybe that's a bounce back offer just to them. Maybe it's an invited series of events just for them. Maybe it's a book swap party. Maybe it's come in and we have swag from, we have ARCs that we just brought back from Winter Institute that we would like to share with romance or whatever it is. Create an event that creates action for them to come into the store. Then after 3 months, whatever you've done to generate interest or market to that specific customer, see if it moves the needle on sales from that group of customers. If that's the case, you've got the right stuff. You just need more customers like them. If they come back in or they don't respond, you've probably got the wrong stuff. Does that make sense? So take that piece of data that you have control over, amplify it with another KPI, put marketing to it, or put employee attention to it, or put shelf talkers to it, or do something to it, and then watch it over time and see if it changes. That's an example of using 2 KPIs to try to move the needle on the first one. Shifting staff to different times. offering events at different times. And actually, that's a really good segue to talk about what makes a bankable event. But what are some examples of paired KPIs that are just obvious to people? Hours that you're open versus foot traffic. Store events, town events versus hours open. Numbers of employees on the floor versus sales. Number of employees on the floor versus per ticket item. One of the things that we were realizing with the wrapping is that if the person is wrapping, they're not on the floor doing the add-on sale. What are the two things that you can use to move the needle on one? Does volume of inventory in your store drive number of transactions? This is something that we've looked at a lot in the kids store. People buy out of a full basket in kids. I'm not sure that's always true at MacArthur. Sometimes I think Sleeker does better. I'm tracking that this year because it's our third full year, so it's easier for me to track subsections. But from the kids store, particularly in sections like plush, they buy from a full basket. They won't buy from less inventory. So inventory count versus sales. And it's almost counterintuitive. You're like, it's not selling really well, so why should I buy a bunch more of it? It's because when you have a bunch more of it, it sells a lot better. Knowing those two things will help you make a difference. Yeah, go ahead. We're going to talk a little bit about bankable events because I want to have plenty of time to talk about this. If there's one takeaway from today, I'd like everybody's events to be just marginally, if not greatly, more profitable. Oh, let's just keep going. Oh, this was supposed to get you to feedback what pair you thought was exciting. We sort of did that. We'll come back around.
That was our event.
Oh, that picture?
Yes, I don't know. Thank you for making that slide. Anyway, that was a fun event at Hayden Public Library. It was crazy good, but it actually didn't result in being profitable. Isn't that fun? Because of returns, we overbought. And a library crowd. Okay, yes. So I don't want to go too deep, but I found it interesting. And so I've always kind of been noodling on an event P&L because I know in the back of my mind that many of them don't make money. The customers love them and it's important in the community. But I'm working with my staff and trying to delegate event activities and trying to get them to have some metrics to be looking at regularly so we can compare events over time. And so this was a wonderful event, but the main author, Noelle Ely, who's adorable. The book had been written online. You know how that goes. I'm old, so I'm not as hip on all this stuff. And then it was put out, on paper. Well, most of the people holding up their books brought their books they already had. So, that's a dud. It was fun and everybody had a good time. But we didn't sell much of what we brought. And that was boxes and boxes of books. So we didn't really understand the crowd. We didn't understand all of that. Plus, sometimes at a library event, people are wanting a free event. They're not necessarily looking to put money out. But anyway, it looked great. It was super fun, but it didn't make money. So, what makes a bankable event? We're going to go back. So I have a P&L that I built that I'm willing to share if y'all want to bring a card up. And it's really simple, but it puts the metrics of, the date. So I want to know the day of the week because we're constantly, is it a better a Thursday or a Wednesday? And then putting, who the author is, if they're a debut. And then I'm tracking the inventory. What do we, how much inventory did we bring in? How many books? And then how much backlist? Because sometimes we bring in too much backlist. Sometimes we don't bring in enough. And those are missed sales. And then I'm looking at sales of the books, cost of goods sold. And here's my little net after cost of goods sold. And then where's my labor? So the labor is key. This is the metric for both events and book fairs for our store that I just feel like we haven't. I know it, but I'm having trouble getting it communicated. I complain, but if I can put it on paper on a small, tiny Excel without too much words and numbers, they seem to be getting it. And so I have little Excels for book fairs and for events that I've made that I've got my staff using now that I think is a really helpful tool. the labor with the publicists before you do all those emails back and forth. Ding, 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 ding. I don't have to do it anymore, but somebody's doing that and that's costing me money. All the social media time, super critical. But again, that's labor in creating all those posts and scheduling the posts and creating the graphics and blah, 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 blah. And then obviously the labor that night, that was kind of easy because I've got the time because all this labor is happening. And I've had people say, well, they're also doing their regular job. But they are, but they're doing this job to make this event happen. And that's costing dollars. So I've built like 3 different labor categories. And so then I'm donating typically 20% of the proceeds because I'm donating to the library because that's part of the give back. So I've got a line item for that check. And then I have a line item for the returns because there's freight. There's costs. We spent $120 in freight to send all the books back that we didn't sell. It was painful. I let everyone know, but having it on paper, and then you can see that net bottom line of that event. It's pretty clear.
So,
Yes.
so events have KPIs. Obviously, that's a ton of data points, right? That you could gather, but you could also just spoil it. You could just bring it down to 1. What was our profit or loss on that actual event? Now, I print out our narrative P&L for every event, and they go in a notebook. I'm so old school. But the reason they do that is because I force myself to have that notebook next to me when I do grids. It is so easy to want every single event. I only want profitable events by and large. I can afford a few that aren't, but they need to be balanced. So I need to look back every single time and say, what will I need to sell? What will it take to make that work? And the last time I did that genre or that author or that location, what did I learn? And what do I need to do differently? And how do I need to pitch it differently? Now, I'm super transparent. I share that information with a publicist after the event. As part of my report of here's how many copies we sold, here's how many people we were there, here's how much backlist we sold, here's the media that was attracted from that event, if I'm lucky enough to be able to say, it was in the paper, it was on TV or whatever else. But I also want to share to them, here was our margin on that. Like, here's what we did. And here's why it was so great and why I'm super excited to do it again. Or here's why you and I need to redesign this event next time for when we do something like this. I make it a partnership so that it is just super open. My staff also knows events how they did and why, because it may make them think of suggestions to make it more profitable or to make it an event that is maybe not worth doing, or maybe pairing 2 events together to make them more profitable. But I think a P&L, the overall P&L, if you just get down to that 1 KPI, the bottom line on that event, it's the most valuable thing you can compare event over event over event.
But track your labor.
And it's not just author events. Story times are a KPI. How many bodies came in the store? How many people did you have sitting crisscross applesauce? And then how much did you sell over time? If sales is a goal for your story time. Or anything else that you do. Book clubs. This is the one that my husband's always on my case about, because we do a lot of evening book clubs at my adult store, my grown-up store, and I'm there late a lot of nights. And I'll walk in the door and the first thing he'll say is, how many books did you sell? I'll be like, I'm walking the dog, and then I'll talk to you.
Yeah. And then we do a few in-store book fairs, but we're doing school book fairs. And again, it's pretty easy to track. I have a spreadsheet. I track, how many students, how many books did we bring, how many transactions, average dollar transactions. And then I'm also tracking all the labor components of making that book fair happen. And obviously there's a donation component. So, again, I've just been finding the labor suck has been much bigger than I think my staff, and we want to be out in the community. It's super critical, and there's that balance, and so what size book fair, like what do the sales need to be? So one of the things we discovered is we needed to offer a lower payout. So we made different thresholds. So now we have a 10% threshold, and we have a 15. And then if you can sell over $5,000 at your book fair, we're going to write a check for 20% of those sales, because that has over time shown me that we still make money. I don't need to make a lot of money, but it needs to not be a loser. So that's helped us with negotiating and making a better contract and giving them a little bit more incentive to raise that bar.
All of this scorekeeping is not to paralyze with data, but allow your store I say this all the time. We all love our businesses, right? We need to let our businesses love us back. It's about letting you amplify the activity that your store rolls downhill the most easily. What do we do the best? What's the most profitable for us? What do we get the most return of? Let's put our energy there. Let's celebrate that. Let's concentrate on that. And let's pull away from the things that the KPIs over time are showing us are not improving. Let's let our businesses love us back. And that also has to do with, in my case, less in-store events. We dropped birthday parties because it was making the staff miserable. And it wasn't, we thought we were adding new customers to the store. What we found out was that birthday party events every weekend was exhausting everybody, but it wasn't really adding to the new customer list. The standard customers were coming in and being inconvenienced. Mm-hmm. Well, all for the price of 18 Costco cupcakes, we figured out that that we could maybe let that go. Other event-related KPIs that you're tracking. Yes. Oh, you only do ticket events? You see, this is my hero right here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because of years of getting kicked in the head from doing free events.
Mm-hmm.
So post-COVID, everyone's got to pay to get in the door. I got a philosophy around that if anyone cares afterwards. But I'm always interested in, because people who buy tickets, whether it's a general admission ticket or a Bookwood ticket, how many people actually will show up even after buying the tickets. And sometimes it's surprising that how many people spend $30 and just not show up and then never ask for their book. Or if you have a general admission ticket, what percentage of people do I think will actually show up, which helps when I think about the size of the venue that we need and things like that. So I'm always loving that attendance data that we pull.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Because if you're paying or if you're renting a venue and then there's a 20% no show, you could have maybe had a smaller venue, spent less money. That's great.
Right.
I have a question too, but I would just second that 3 years ago we switched to only ticketed events, and the $5 ticket or a book sale is their entrance, and our attendance doubled, if not tripled, just because people paying $5 means they show up instead of just RSVPing. But my question was about partnered events. Do you have a KPI to track, like how often you're partnering with other people in the community on an event, even if it's not your event, you're just the bookseller, but you're tracking that relationship building?
Absolutely.
I don't know how to really record that, but it seems interesting to me.
The most obvious one to me is the 2 different local library systems that use us as their go-to bookseller for their events. And there's a very different outcome for different kinds of events at those. And we talk about it when we schedule, when they call and say, we want you to provide books for an afternoon event for a mystery thriller writer, and it's going to be from 2 to 3 in the afternoon. So I know that the bulk of the people that are going to come are going to be senior citizens.
And it's a hardcover.
And it's a hardcover, and it's $32. Yeah. So yes, those lead to very informed conversations, right? About return from event, time of day, price point of book, newness of book. Library patrons in our area are less concerned about new. They want the touch and feel with a live author, but still newness of book does drive the sale. So yes, we do look at those numbers. So library is the most obvious partner. Every event that we have in our physical store is partnered with somebody else in the community, if for no other reason than to bring in a nonprofit and let them do an information table at the same time. The reason we do it that way is so that they will publicize our event to their mailing list as well. So if Bulldog Rescue of Indiana is also co-sponsoring our day with Clifford at the store, or they're the event, and that email's going out to all the Bulldog people at the same time. I partner everything with something in the community, and then I track who gets the best bang for the buck. Like, who are my popular groups that automatically have good response? And how many of those convert to more than one sale? Those customers convert to multiple sales. Yes, go ahead.
In the vein of partnering with libraries, have you noticed a difference in sales or the conversion for the attendees if the library is getting the author to sign versus not sign.
I have not, because I can't think of an event where an author hasn't signed.
Same here. They usually stay and sign. So that's,
Yeah. So you must be having really huge events that they're, yeah. No, I haven't tracked that. That would be a really interesting data point, and I'd love to hear what you find out. That's interesting. Yes.
I learned another fun one. So when we were doing free events, and we kind of had, in a sense of what the conversion rate was, people walking in the door in an event and how many people actually bought a book. And we kind of got that to about 30 or 40% roughly. So what I do now is we get reached out to by somebody saying, hey, we got such and such author. They come into this and we expect 300 people. So I take that conversion number and then make them guarantee that as a minimum buy. Otherwise we won't show up. So we do that. And I use those conversion numbers to help, because I'm like, hey, we don't want to lose money because you have an event.
Right.
So this is what we expect to be sold. So can you guarantee this as a minimum? And then you just pay the delta if their attendees don't buy enough books. So that's how we use that to make it bankable.
Which is not that different, honestly, from the standard that we are being held to by publishers when they ask us to bid for an event and they say, we want to see X number of guaranteed, X number of copies moved, or we want you to have a venue that holds X number of bodies. We're having to do that math all the time. So doing it in a partnership is just smart.
Really great.
The expectation is so much clearer. Yes. Yes, go ahead.
So to make it simple. So if somebody says, we think we'll have 100 people show up at our author event, I'll say, well, you need to guarantee 30 books. And I put it all in the email. So if only 20 books are sold, that organization just has to pay for 10 books. So it just sets our floor for our commitment. So we know no matter what happens, we're going to sell 30 books. Right.
We've done the same thing. And then if the people that you're eventing with say, well, what am I going to do with the 10 books? I say, well, you run a contest with your membership, or you send it out to your biggest donor, get the author to sign, make it a little extra special. Usually it's not a problem. And it guarantees that we tell them we stay in business. So if we stay in business, we help you.
Or they partner with another local nonprofit and they give those books back, and they can advertise that fact. So if those books are going to go to IPS 38 because they're going to, purchase an extra 20 books, they absolutely can put that picture on the front of their brochure. Yeah. They find ways to make that have value for them. We wanted to talk a little bit about KPIs that are more difficult to control, but that need to be tracked. And those are cost-based KPIs. So not KPIs based on performance of your store, but rather cost of doing business KPIs. We talked a little bit about freight when it comes to doing events, but let's just talk about freight in general. So the average freight cost as we enter in a non-book item in my stores varies greatly by the amount that we buy, the free freight deals, and the time of year that I buy it in. So tracking freight by quarter is just as important as tracking freight by each individual item. We found 2 years ago that we had shifted our buying after COVID to a much tighter schedule. Many stores did. We were buying shorter seasons. We were buying more immediately. We weren't taking advantage of as many of the long-term deals, which also came with half freight or free freight or freight at a certain amount. Our freight costs were creeping up to the point that they became a real suck on our margin. So looking at freight costs by quarter was critical for us. And unfortunately, as this year of tariffs has shown us an increased freight costs, sometimes they come literally out of the blue. And we need to be looking at them all the time. Obviously, the other freight on returns, freight on whatever else, whoever else you're shipping to.
Yeah. And then credit card fees, I know for our store, it seemed like it was really, really good for a long period of time. And then I would say over the last 24 months, I've really started to notice I'm paying same company, but fees as a percentage of sales. It's not great. And so that's one of those where I've seen it, I know it, I need to act on it and at least do some comparative shopping. So that's one where I've seen a lot of creep for our store. And then we buy cheaper bags now. And I don't like the bags, but I'm saving thousands of dollars. And, you got to do what you got to do.
It's okay. So walking the mic is part of the ABA employee health program.
So I was in the ABACUS session this morning. I think some of you were too. And just to put a plug in for ABACUS, because now I know what the average, the industry average is. And once I calculate mine, I can go back to the credit card processing company and say, hey, look, I'm way above what's going on here.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
It's always good to promote ABACUS, and it gives a great benchmark.
It does. Do we have, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Paul. Oh, you're waiting for a mic. Oh, you're going to be the favorite attendee.
Good job.
We wanted to do the same thing with tracking freight. And one of the things that we realize is if you just have a bucket of freight, that doesn't help you make any decisions. So you have to find a way to divide out freight in, freight out, customer shipping charges, everything.
Returns, event freight, which is different than stock freight in the store, and then freight on new purchases, not books, but everything else. Right?
Yeah.
Was there another comment out there that I missed? Okay. Do we have any more slides? Anyone more? Yep.
Just going to say back on the ABACUS track. So a good time of year to do all of these is right before you need to submit to ABACUS. There you go.
We talked about space and time when we were talking about sales, but rent versus sales per hour, sales per square foot, section turn. These are all KPIs that are pretty easy to pull and may in fact be pullable from your POS system. Yeah. And you don't have to do a lot of arithmetic to get there. Oh, that slide that's next to it, that was from Independent Bookstore Day last year and genre sales by section just on that one day. My point was to help the staff do displays for IBD, to figure out what we were turning the most, what kind of customers we were drawing, what areas were the most exciting. I have it for the year before as well, and to see the change and also the marketing. But
I love that.
It makes sense that on Independent Bookstore Day, when a bunch of people are going to come into your store for a first time who are not regular customers, they're on a book crawl, they're on a tour, they're on a hop, they're on a whatever. What are they buying, and do we have it out where they see it? Are we going to convert into one of their regular bookstores after this first visit? And so are we reflecting what they're interested in our displays as they walk in the door?
That's a fun one.
Staff ownership. We talked a little bit about this earlier, but this is about pushing this data out and giving ownership to staff for particular areas that they're interested in. And I would ask them first, where do you think we have the opportunity to make a change in the store that you want to make? And how do you want to track a performance indicator over time to see if that change helps or to make a decision to make a change? I push that out. You can't do it all, nor should you. Get your team involved. Yes. For me, it's numbers. That can be your choice. How you do your bookkeeping is.
Feedback from staff because we did so well that the chatter that was happening behind my back about, oh my gosh, we did so well. How come we're not all seeing all this money come our way? It was
Melissa, do you want to do your skit?
Yeah, so you need to do the money game that I did at the budget thing last year, where once a year I get a stack of dollar bills. Each one represents $10,000. And that starts as the sales pile. And then I show them where it goes. This much goes to inventory. This much goes to payroll. This much goes to health insurance. This much goes to the bags I don't want. And then you get down to those few bills out of that pile. They love it. They love it. It's visual for the people that don't want a spreadsheet. And they don't understand. They hear that we have over $1 million of sales in our store, and they think I'm just raking in the dollars. They don't. And so this is a great visual tool where the non-nerd group gets a lot of buy-in, and they really appreciate the the effort it takes to be in retail business. So that's an idea.
Yeah, get buy-in with information. More information is better. Sharing is better. I'm a huge proponent of open book management. And I think if you are committing to the success of the store, you are committing to the knowledge necessary to create it. Everybody should know everything they want to know. And we tell people when we hire them, we are hiring you as a frontline bookseller. What do you want to learn how to do next? Do you want to buy? Do you want to budget? Do you want to staff? Do you want to what do you want to learn to do next? And it's always a work in progress every 3 months. What tasks have you learned in the last 3 months? What do you want to learn how to do next? And I think learning the data of the store is part of that.
Could you share a little bit? Do you have part-time folks?
Yep. We have
and they take on things?
Absolutely
I need
part-time
those people.
folks. My example always is, and this is a toy, so it's a non-book item. You know about Charm It? You know that little item? It's like charm bracelets, and you buy the little individual charms and you put them on there. Okay. Our Charm It section has been run by a high school employee forever, like for 24 years, different high school employees. But that's always like the first section I give somebody is the Charm It section if they're interested in it at all. And they know sales per item. They know sales per SKU. They know what categories sell well. I give them an allowance every month that they call the Charm It representative and they order and they buy the new ones. When a new line comes out from Charm It, they make the decision whether or not they think it's going to work or not. We look at the literally the P&L of Charm It every quarter with a 16 or a 17-year-old. I then help them write their college application that says that they have managed a section in a retail store and they understand all of this and they're really, really good at it. But the point is, do I want to know if the freaking Snow White charms sell better than the Disney Tiana ones? I mean, I care, but not that much. So everything that you can push out. Travel books, somebody should be managing that. Your children's section, somebody should be managing that. Pick a section, pick a part of your store. Candles, somebody should be managing that. Push it out. Somebody's better at it than you, I promise. And they care about it more.
And then I'll just touch on the walkabout method. This is something I like to do on Saturday mornings because I typically have some of my key staff working that morning. And it's a chance for me to talk through some of the data items, but visually walking through the store. A case in point, we had my gift buyer decided she was tired of seeing the games on the game table. It made so much sense to have it be on a table to me, but she decided she wanted to move it to this slot wall. And so I let her do it in, I think, maybe May of last year. And I let it run through the summer, which I was super nervous because it just wasn't as shoppable, which was inherently obvious to me. But I need to let people try things, and I don't want to always be the no. And so I let her move the game table to a game wall. And then I kind of empowered the staff to be just more generally noticing, people, could they find it? Did they pick things up off of that wall? And sure enough, the sales had kind of dipped and, it just didn't have a flow. And so it's not a super data-y thing, but I got the staff to pay attention to here, we're going to try something, and then we're going to give it 4 months, and then I switched it back for fourth quarter, and we have the table, and it makes more sense. So, and I as an owner, you want to empower the staff. But I don't think a decision to move something because the staff's tired of seeing it where it is, and that was I let it happen. I knew what the answer was going to be. But I let it happen so they could see that just because you're bored with it doesn't mean it doesn't work for our customer. And at the end of the day, that's what matters. So it wasn't a super techie KPI activity, but I involved the whole team and I got them to understand that just because you're bored of seeing it because you're in here 5 days a week doesn't mean it's not great for the customer. So it was a fun exercise.
So let the numbers speak back to you. You all have been incredibly involved and engaged and patient, and 2 hours together to talk about numbers is a lot. And so thank you for that time. We have time for questions. If anybody has questions, we also have time for you to fill out an evaluation survey on the app.
Can I say something really fast about the evaluation?
So can.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
We are trying something. If you don't want to do the app and you want a paper survey, you can come get one back here. I will have one pin. Hopefully you have some more. You can stay in here, fill it out, give it to me. You can also go give it to the check-in table. So if you don't want to try the app, you can try a paper survey. Thank you.
Oh, I didn't even know that existed. That's so great. I am going to if you want to take a picture of the KPIs on the paper in front of you, you are more than welcome to do that. I am going to take all of those pieces of paper create a master list, and that will be published in the notes for the section. You won't miss any.
Okay. Yes, question over here.
Our shelf labeling system, yes. Each item is tagged in our POS system with its location.
But okay, so like where in your POS system?
It's a field. It's just a field in the POS. It's just a blank, unused field that we converted into a location device for us.
Okay, and then you can run a report.
Completely. So D, or the letter is the unit, and the number is the number of the shelf coming down from the top.
Okay.
So C4 is Eric Carl.
Got it.
That's the only shelf that never moves in my store. So that's like the one that I use all the time. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's a very interesting way to think about, breaking up your store. I mean, I know where things are genre wise,
right?
But to be able to say, okay, this bookshelf isn't doing well.
Mm-hmm. To be clear, I wouldn't run a report about C1 because like on any given month, right, a book might move down a little bit or up a little bit, but I will absolutely run a report about C1 through 3. Okay. Is the top half of that shelf turning, or did it die? Did the bottom half of that shelf, which is more likely, die? And I need to pull those books up and out and put something down there that's automatically people are going to grab. Yes.
So off curiosity, what point of sale are you using?
So that's my kid's store. That's Lightspeed. So we basically built our own there. Yeah. It's a very basic system that we turned into a bookie thing.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Yes, go ahead.
Hello. So we're looking at when do we lean in and expand strong sellers and when do we want to expand poor sellers? And so we're trying to look at what KPIs might we look at to see, are those sections underperforming because they're small, because we don't have a stock, because there's not actual interest. I think possibly we could look at in-store sales by section versus special order sales. Are there others you'd recommend for us to make those types of decisions, when to lean into a poor seller?
Moving it. So you bring it up on a table display and you generate marketing heat under it, and you see if it moves the needle. Because again, if you bring it to people's attention and you make it visible to them and you promote it to people who have shown an interest in something like it in the past, then you've got the right stuff. You just need more of it. Mm-hmm. If you play it out to people who've already expressed an interest in it or who are your regular customers and it doesn't move the needle, you've got the wrong stuff. It's always stuff in people, right? We're like matchmakers every day. That's what we do.
Make a theme display around it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm just to promote the next step of good signage with it. Why is it together? What is it you're trying to tell the customer to entice that buy? My staff loves to make displays and then I come in and there's no sign. Like what are we trying to tell them?
Yeah,
what are we doing? Make it cohesive.
We are literally matchmakers all day, every day. We can't carry every book in print.
Yeah.
So the question always becomes, how do we matchmake the people that come into our store with just the right book? That's why we are magicians.
But we have to be willing to let it go if it just isn't right for your demographic.
Any other questions that people have or comments, please come up and talk to us. Otherwise, thank you so much. Have an amazing rest of your day. We will see you at the next event. And I can't wait for the education department to send me that I love you email that says you once again
100% survey participation. And hopefully you'll come away with one KPI that you're really going to focus on when you go back to your store. So thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you for listening to Booked, the bookstore education podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app. Additional educational resources can always be found on the ABA site at www.bookweb.org. Happy reading!